Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, the mobile university for entrepreneurs. This is the business podcast for educators who want to learn how to turn what they know into what they are known for. Each episode, I bring on an educator, entrepreneur, change maker, content creator, and we will talk about the story behind the glory. So for those who be listening on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible, I am your host, Dr. Will, and today's guest is Natasha Malik. And we're going to be getting into her journey, the founder's journey, the work she's doing as a consultant, and get into some business fundamentals as well. So, Natasha, thank you for coming on the show. And will you please introduce yourself?
First of all, well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the space to have this conversation today. And so, like you said, my name is Natasha Malik. I am an educational consultant. I've been in this game and have survived for over 20 years. And so just looking to transition my expertise in a different space and to provide impact in a larger way, bigger capacity. So thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Now, I'm always curious as to how people got to where they are. What did you think you'll be doing when you were growing up? And tell us about your journey into education.
I never thought I was going to be in the educational realm growing up. I'm a humanitarian at heart, so I knew I would be doing something, whether it was working with children or women. I really wanted to be a missionary, to be honest with you, and, live in third world countries and support, human rights and children's rights and women's rights. But education kind of landed in my lap, to be honest with you, when I was in undergrad. And when I finished, I got a teaching fellow job at a charter school, and that was kind of it. And I realized that there is some humanitarian work in working education, especially working with populations that are underserved, minority populations. And so I just it was a natural gravitation and pull, but I would have never thought that this is kind of where I would land.
So, in the years that you have been working in a public school system, what inspired you to step outside of your current role and to start building an education business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I wish I had like a more positive, fluffy answer, but I don't. To be honest with you, what really compelled me to step outside of the kind of structured space was just the politics, the saying we're doing what's best for children, but our actions are not reflective of that, and letting politics and all the noise kind of get in the way, and just seeing students kind of continuously fall through the cracks was really what compelled me to get out, start transitioning out, because I know that I have a greater impact, and there's a lot of work that I want to do and that I can do. But being in a space so limiting, I realize I'm not going to be able to do that kind of work within this space. And I think the biggest thing is, we're asking children and adults to show up to an environment every day and be successful and thrive when the environment is not set up for them to be successful and to thrive. And I think that's another passion of mine too, is to get outside of that, to really build up leadership capacity to really create environments where everyone is thriving. And so I guess to answer that in a short way, seeing what is not being offered, what is not being provided, the environments that are not being cultivated for everyone to thrive is really what's compelling me to step outside of that, to say, there is a better way. It can look very different. And if you want the guidance and consultation, I'm for it, And so that's really my driving force, honestly.
Well, starting a business can be overwhelming. What did you learn or what surprised you the most during those early stages?
Overwhelming is accurate. It has been very overwhelming. And there's just a lot of things that have come up that you don't know what you don't know, or it surprises you, or, maybe it encourages you, or you may feel some frustration. But if I had to pick one surprise, that'd be hard because I've had lots of surprises. I think one of probably the biggest surprise is we know that there are people out here doing this work. And I think the lack of like collective connection to say, hey, I've been doing this, I've been in the game for a while. Let me help you. This is what you need to know. This is what you don't know. I haven't really sensed that, which is why I was so compelled to your podcast, because you're creating a space for people to come together whether they'd, been doing it a year, 6 months, 10 years to come together to offer resources, support, but a sense of community. But I think that's kind of been one of my biggest things is the lack of, I guess, community as it relates to that. And 'cause I just kinda would expect more people to, just say, "Oh, hey, you're new to this space. Let's connect." So, yeah, that's probably been one of the biggest surprises, and, just all the little things of building your business, you know? I know the last time we talked, the insurance, and it was like, "Oh, I gotta get insurance. Oh, I need a business bank account." So there's all these little details and nuances of kind of creating your own business that and I do a lot of research. I trying to know what I don't know, if that makes sense. But there are just things that come up, but I'm understanding it's a part of the process. And I think the more that I understand that, that brings a sense of peace and ease and joy. And it's like, just enjoy the process, Natasha. You're not going to know everything. People may not be as willing to come and say, hey, let me help guide you or whatever. And that's okay. But when I get to that place of success, I definitely will be the person to say what you need. You know what I'm saying? And so, if anything, that's kind of inspiring me to say, just keep going. So I can offer that to the people behind me or this coming up.
When speaking about sort of that lack of community, what have you seen on social media from other people who are doing this work that you've been able, some nuggets that they've dropped or things that they have, content they've created that you've been able to use for yourself?
I think the biggest thing is not being afraid to network. A big part of my uncomfortability in starting this is the networking part of it. The advertising of yourself and kind of the selling of yourself. Because I've always been a practitioner that prided myself on letting my work speak for itself. And so I didn't need to boast or talk or post. And so transitioning into that space has been very awkward, real talk, uncomfortable, feels very foreign. And so I've had to reframe and reshift my perspective of my why. And as long as my why is always I'm moving with authenticity and intentionality and understanding that my purpose, I'm not trying to be famous. I'm not trying to make $1 billion. I really just want to help people. And I want to build up adult capacity so that we can build up children's capacity. But I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed is people just putting themselves out there, whether it's posting every day or posting what they've done or a recent event or a conference or a podcast, whatever it is, people posting. In all kinds of ways. And so I'm picking up on that. I'm proud of myself for posting every day because again, it's very foreign to me. But I've just realized people have this kind of almost feels like this radical energy of saying like, this is who I am, this is what I offer. And it's amazing. When you look at social media, everybody presents themselves in a way like it's amazing and their service is amazing and not to discount everyone. And so just having this radical energy and confidence in yourself and just putting yourself out there, not being scared, not worrying about what people's going to think about your post. I literally just post. Whoever it affects in a positive way, great. Whoever doesn't like it, great. I just keep it moving.
And how are you showing up as your full self? Because people can get caught up in trying to be overly polished or, they're seeing what other people are posting on social media. They're seeing some of these business gurus talk about certain things and they may feel that, wow, I have to post this. I have to write something that sounds like this. I have to look like this on video or my content has to feel like this. And it could become easy to lose yourself and trying to morph into something that's not who you are. So
Absolutely.
when you're looking at posting and connecting with people and creating this content, what is it like for you to show up as your full self?
Yeah, I love that question, and I'm so glad you asked that because I recently just posted on LinkedIn about that. And I talked about comparison. And I talked about how comparison is a thief and it can steal your joy, rob you of your joy, your peace, or rob you of this idea that what you're building is not worthy, because it doesn't look like someone else or, it's not presented in the same way. And so one of the things that I'm always keeping in my mind is, Natasha, this is your journey and there is no journey alike. Will has a journey, Natasha has a journey, Jane has a journey, whoever, everybody is on their own journey and their journey is different. Everybody has unique gifts. And so when I post, I don't really scroll, Will. I'll post, I'll look at kind of what's on my initial page and that's it. everybody's journey is different. And because everybody's journey is so unique, there's no competition. There is space for everybody who's gifted in this work. And I truly believe I'm gifted in this work. And so one of the things that I do is I don't compare myself. And I pride myself. The reason why I believe I have such impact the way that I do is because of my authenticity. That's the feedback that I'm always getting. And so who am I to change the gifts that I've been given, right? I'm gonna be packaged like this. I can speak very formally, but I can speak slang. I can work in executive room, but I can also have a conversation with some people at a cafe and just kind of chill and relax. And so I think the most important thing that you can do is just to be yourself. But I think a big part of that is protecting what you see and don't see, what you fill your mind with, what you choose to entertain or not entertain. And when I tell you, I'm just hyper focused on my journey, building up my business so that I can help people. So I'm always keeping the forefront of my why. And again, my biggest blessing is being Natasha, is being her authentic self. And so I really try to foster that among people. If you looked at my LinkedIn post, it's all about authentic you, showing up as you are. And whoever loves it, great. And whoever doesn't, that's good too.
Let's get into your business. Who do you serve and what problem do you solve?
Yeah, my primary audience is K through 12, but when we get into the culture and restorative work, that's really across any industry. But K through 12 leaders specifically, because I realize that we cannot improve culture, improve school climate, a sense of belonging, all those things without those kinds of leaders. And so really that's what I try to address is I try to build up leadership capacity so that those environments look and feel the way that they should. I was a classroom teacher, you know, I started off that way as many of us have in education. And so my expertise and field is very broad. And so one of the things that I try to focus on is not limiting that, if that makes sense.
So take us behind the curtain. When people are working with you, what do they experience?
You're going to experience authenticity. You're going to experience transparency. You're going to experience someone who's not just there to get a paycheck. I genuinely care about the outcome. I don't control the outcome. I control the process and facilitate the process of you getting there. But I genuinely care about student outcome, improved outcome for adults as well. But you're going to get highly intentional work from the moment we meet to every meeting, to every conversation, the nuances of my behaviors of what I do, what I don't do, how I read a room, how I coach you through this, the conversation, how we develop and build a plan, how we go about developing a plan, how we pivot when I realize that you may have the passion to want to do the work, but may not have the capacity. And so the work is highly intentional. And in order for it to be intentional, I have to understand the audience that I'm serving. So I spend a lot of time doing that first, just connection, because I realize my work is only as good as connections and relationships that I make. So when there's a sense of safety, trust, the sky is the limit, but I have to cultivate that. And it can be challenging trying to cultivate that within a short period of time. And so again, highly intentional, but you're going to get a very unique, high quality experience that I don't believe most are offering, because there are some people in the work, they trying to make their money, and that's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that, and to me, the money is the bonus. Really, for me, it's how am I helping you help others? How am I building up your capacity? Because really what I want to see, I want to see schools where everybody is thriving, not surviving. I want to see leaders thriving. I want to see staff thriving. I want to see children thriving. But the current state of where we are now, that's not happening. And so that's my why. And I keep that at the forefront of everything that I do. But you're going to receive exceptional, high quality, highly skilled service, hands down.
How do you communicate your value to potential clients?
I think communication and value is not just always, it's verbal, but it's nonverbal too. People tell me all the time, when you open your mouth, I sense your passion, right? When you open your mouth, I sense your value. And so it's not something that I feel like I have to walk around as a walking billboard to do that. It's embedded in who I am, right? I don't turn a button on and off. It's just innately who I am. And so anything that I say that comes out of my mouth, you're going to sense that value. You're going to feel that passion. And so I just do me, Will. I just show up as me. I do me. I don't try to be like anybody else. And again, I think that's what resonates with so many people, because you can talk about the work, but you can feel when the work is in somebody. when it's innately there. And so I think people feel that. So I don't try to be anything that I'm not. I demonstrate value because I am value, if that makes sense.
What have you learned about selling yourself and your expertise? And what is your strategy for getting in front of decision makers?
I mean, it kind of goes back to what I mentioned earlier. You kind of have to have this radical confidence in yourself. And because I'll be on social media and I'll be like, wow, these people make it seem like they're absolutely amazing. And they probably are. But you have to be your biggest fan. You have to be your biggest advocate, right? And so nobody's going to believe in you or what you're selling if you don't first believe it in yourself. And so I call it radical because that's what it is. You get up on there like, this is the best post today. This is the best session you're going to have today. This is the best PD. And I think that's just a part of selling yourself. But I think for me, it's trying to balance that and staying true to who I am, if that makes sense. I don't want anything to ever feel superficial or not me, which is why I'm really intentional about everything that I post and what I put out there. It has to align and speak to the work that I do, but more importantly, the person that I am to my core. My strategy right now, it's super simple, honestly. I've just picked one social media platform right now to kind of just kill it. LinkedIn has been my primary source of my social media. And so just posting and honestly just being authentic to who I am, and whoever that resonates with, those are the people that I want to be at the table. So I'm not necessarily just blanketly trying to be at everybody's table because I'm not for everybody's table. I want to be at the right table. And so just staying true to my authenticity, what I'm putting out there, how I'm marketing myself. I just recently had the pleasure of presenting at the NACRJ conference in New Orleans. It's the largest restorative justice conference in the world. Have the privilege of presenting there with so much like-minded, like-hearted restorative practitioners. And so I put that on my LinkedIn recently. I recently wrote a restorative leadership a guide. It's on Amazon. So putting that on there feels weird, like I said, because if no one knows about it, I'm good. I know that that's a personal accomplishment I achieved, but I'll hear my close colleagues in the background on my ear saying, girl, you got to put yourself out there. People got to know. They got to know you. They got to experience you. So just trying to just do things like that and just leverage the social media. I have not graduated to having TikTok, Instagram, and all that. I'm trying to just really manage and do things in pieces so I don't overwhelm myself. I'll eventually get there. But as of now, that's my primary platform, just sharing from my heart the work that I'm doing in just a really authentic way.
As you grow, what are the opportunities that you will pursue and those you will say no to?
It's a great question. It's hard to answer because it depends on the context of the situation and the people. You know, I will tell you, I won't be saying yes to everybody because our work has to align, our spirits have to align, what we're trying to accomplish has to align, and I think there has to be some things in place for me to feel comfortable to consult and work with you. Because you may want to work with me, but you may not have the foundational things that I need in order to do this work with you, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to build up that capacity if that person is willing or organization is willing. But I think there are certain guidelines and expectations that I have and what I'm looking for in terms of organizations to work with. And it has to align with my passion. I'm not out here just trying to collect a paycheck and just go about my business. Again, I care about the outcome. And so that question is really going to be dependent on who the organization, what they're bringing to the table, and if they have space for someone like me, because people will say, I want to do the work. And then you bring in a practitioner like me and I'm hitting you with some hard truths and questions, right? And bringing some awareness to yourself that you may not have been aware of. And it can feel really uncomfortable or intimidating. And so for me, I have a particular thing that I'm looking for in clients. And so if it doesn't align, I'm more than happy to pass that up. And if it does, I'm happy to do the work. But like I said, I'm not just out here just trying to collect a paycheck. I care about the outcome.
So, what administrative tasks have surprised you the most thus far?
Then just get the business up and running. The LLC, what was that about the insurance for the LLC, the business bank account, just those kind of things. There was something else that came up too. I can't recall specifically. I think I was filling out some paperwork and it's like, which LLC are you? And I was like, I don't know. Let me find out real quick. So It's just little things like that. You know, like in terms of marketing, do I have to market all my whole business name or can I just take parts of it? And just in terms of like the visual marketing piece, trying to figure out a website. So it's things like that. It's can feel really overwhelming, but I think I've done a really good job, like I said, of just I have a checklist and I'm like, okay, this week I'm doing this. Today I'm doing this. And as long as I'm working towards something, I'm good with that. And just understanding it's not going to be overnight. You know, I'm not trying to do 50,000 things in 1 week. I literally have a goal of this week. This is my goal. This is what I'm looking to accomplish. And I think because I'm doing it step by step, it has helped to alleviate some of that anxiety or frustration or whatever. And so just being very particular about how I'm trying to do it in pieces.
With that, how are you documenting your processes?
That business folder. Just keeping things really simple, checking it off as I go. Okay, I've accomplished this. I've done that. Check. I'm a check. I like to check things off. And so that works for me. But like I said, just being really intentional about not overwhelming myself is what I've been trying to do. So checking as I go, which feels great. And I keep telling myself one thing that I've been really intentional about too is celebrating the small wins. So every time I check something, it don't matter if it's something as simple as, okay, I got business insurance today. Excellent. Good job, Natasha. That's a win. Do you know what I'm saying? Presented at the NACRJ conference. That's a win. You know what I mean? Like I'm just trying to celebrate things that seem small, but things that seem really big too. And also just trying to enjoy the process along the way.
I know people, you say you become an educator, and we talk about the purpose we have and the love that we have and the mission that we have. And you carry that with you when you become an entrepreneur. But the fact is, if you ain't making no money, this is just a hobby. So, how have you researched pricing and how did you arrive at your pricing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I obviously did some research and it was real talk. It was kind of all over the place. And so I landed on what felt right for me and felt appropriate as I begin this work, if that makes sense. You know, I'm not trying to come in and charge $500,000 an hour. That's not appropriate. You know, so just kind of measuring where I am starting off, although I have a ton of skill sets to offer and expertise, but trying to balance, okay, you are starting off, Natasha, but you do have all this value to bring. I think I landed on something that felt comfortable and right for me. And so I'm really comfortable with that. I came up with a daily rate as well as a hourly rate. And so I'm feeling really good about that. And you know, as time evolves and I evolve in my business and things like that, it will probably change. But I think that where I've landed is really appropriate, you know, for the time and space that I'm in.
Well, I want you to reframe your thought around that.
Mm,
People are not paying you for your time. They are paying you for your experience that you bring to solve
mm,
their problem,
okay.
right? So when you try to parse that out, you
Mm,
can undercut and undervalue
undervalue.
yourself,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because even when I look at the work that I do, even for my school district, it takes me a certain amount of time to do something, whether it's creating courses or troubleshooting. I can get it done as quickly as I can because I've been doing this for 13 years.
Mhm.
Whereas someone new, it may take them longer because they're just learning how all of these systems work. So
Right.
when people bring you in, again, they're not paying you for your time. They're paying
Mm.
you for the experience that you bring to the table. So think about that when you look at
Okay.
prices.
Absolutely. I will think about that, and what I'm hearing is that I need to connect with you off record and discuss pricing, and so I will be reaching out. I will be reaching out. Absolutely. No, I love that. And, you know, you're not the first person to say that to me, and that's just a mind shift that I have to make, that I'm transitioning to, because again, well, honestly, I would do it for free. That's how passionate I am about it, but we gotta make a living. And so I'm trying to transition to more of that business mindset and just trying to find the balance of my passion and the business. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I'll definitely be reaching out because I would love to just know what your thoughts are. I'm curious now, but yeah, I love that. And thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I wouldn't do it for free. I
Yeah.
could I could have $10 million in the bank and I still wouldn't do it.
Mm, mm,
You're coming off that coin. Uh,
yeah.
that's just how I am, right? I don't ever want to be played and devalued because it happens a lot out
Okay.
there, especially to new
Mm,
people
mm,
and people of color. They don't.
okay.
Hey, I
No, that's good to know. I'm learning. That's good to know. I'm gonna hit you up. Don't trust me.
hey,
As soon as we get off, what we talking about. So, no, and it's good to know, and again, these are things that I don't know, that I'm not aware of, but it makes sense, and so just hearing what other consults are charging or what their starting rate was, will definitely help me to kind of make sure that I'm valuing myself, my experience. I'm valuing my experience appropriately, and so I love that, and I appreciate you that feedback. Thank you.
Now, before we go, and it's been awesome speaking with you, what is one lesson you've learned already that you wish every aspiring entrepreneur knew?
There's a few things. I mentioned one already. Don't compare yourself to anybody. Don't compare yourself to anybody's journey, your story. Your journey is unique because it's so easy when you scrolling or when you're in environments to think, "Oh man, they killing it. Oh, they doing this, they doing that. I'm not doing that yet." And I'm like, "Mm-mm. This is your journey, you know?" And everybody had a baseline of where they started. You know what I'm saying? So you see the success, but you don't realize they where you was at, you know, when you started off, you know? And so I think that's one of the biggest things is don't compare yourself to anyone else's journey. Focus on your journey, you know? Be careful of what you're putting, you know, seeing, scrolling, all that stuff, because it can happen even before you know it, you know? You thinking you doing something, you landed maybe your first contract, then somebody over here, they on their 20,000th contract, you know? So it's like focus on your own journey, have this radical confidence and belief that what you have to offer is worthy, because it can feel lonely. It can feel lonely, it can feel discouraging, especially when you're scrolling and you seeing all these people, all these accomplishments that you have not accomplished yet. So just focus on your journey, stay focused on you, and stay authentic to who you are. Don't try to be like anybody else. You know, that's what makes this work beautiful is there's only one Malik, there's only one Will, you know, and I think that's a part of the gift of what you offer. So be true to yourself. So that was like three responses to one question, but those are really my biggest takeaways, you know, up until this point.
All right. Thank you, Natasha, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for the work that you're doing. I love this space that you're creating, and I hope that my interview looks and sounds good after editing.
Inshallah, it'll be awesome. Now, people,
Inshallah.
now, people, you know how I do this. This podcast episode is going to be on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Simplecast, Stitcher, Spotify, and Audible. I need you to subscribe and to share with your network. And though I'm on all of these major podcast platforms, I'm trying to really grow on Apple Podcasts. So don't just give it a listen. Leave me some stars and some reviews because your boy's trying to be found, and I'm trying to get Oprah on the show because I want her to know that we're doing big things around here. Again, I'd like to thank my guest, Natasha Malik, for coming on and dropping some gems, and for you for checking out another episode of the Dr. Will Show. As always, people, invest in you. AD.